name is Bernard Tomlin. Welcome to the opening show of Old Westbury Sports Extra. Our show will be a window into the Old Westbury Athletic Department. We would like to share our athletes and coaches' passion for their sport and tell you about our commitment to share community service activities that we're involved in that make Old Westbury a better school and Long Island a better community. We hope you enjoy the show. My first guest on Old Westbury Sports Extra is Mr. Edie Krinsky, a teacher, administrator, coach in the Old Westbury school system. He also was an advanced scout for the Detroit Pistons, Houston Rockets, general manager of the Long Island Surf, commissioner of the United States Basketball League, a two-sport athlete at Harvard. Welcome to Old Westbury Sports Extra.
Thanks for inviting me, Bernard.
Ed, after such a long and successful career as an educator and an athletic coach, why are you back in the business?
Because you invited me back into the business. I guess I never left basketball, but the opportunity to come back and coach was one that I just could not resist, and I'm glad I'm here.
When you look at athletes today, and we talk about the old school and the new school athletes, what do you see the major differences are? What do you see the major differences are?
Well, they're bigger and they're stronger. To some extent, they're more skilled. I don't think they're any smarter than the athletes of the past. I think the athletes of the past were smarter athletes. They were quicker to learn, and they put more time into learning the fundamentals of the game.
What are you most proud of?
I guess I'm most proud of the players who played for me at Westbury High School, who went on to successful careers, not only in sports, but in other endeavors. I mean, I have many of them are physicians, attorneys, and so forth, but I did have 3 of my former athletes who became professional athletes. Dennis Duval, who played for the Washington Bullets in the NBA and the Atlanta Hawks, later went on to become the chief of police in Syracuse. He had attended Syracuse and was an All-American basketball player there. Joe Dupree, who played for the New York Nets when they were in the ABA, and who's been a very successful insurance man.
I mentioned many things in the introduction, but what I left out was you spent some time in the military. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was fortunate in that the time I spent in the military, I spent in special services. I was an athlete in the Army. I started out at Fort Dix, then went over to Germany, and most of my time was spent playing baseball and basketball. And during the football season, I was the equipment manager and publicity director for the football team.
Division III basketball, your first year as an assistant coach here at Old Westbury. What surprised you?
Well, the skill level is very high. The major difference I find between Division III and Divisions II and I is the overall size of the teams. You just don't have the big men. We did play against some 7-footers, but you don't have the uniformity of height in the Division III programs that you find in Division I and II, where you find a great number of players, 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", and 7 feet.
Your years as an advanced scout for the Detroit Pistons, Houston Rockets, a dream job for somebody like myself, and I think many athletes who are now participating one day would like to be a coach. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, I was fortunate in that when I was scouting was important in that you had to actually go to the games, diagram the plays that they ran, figure out what their strengths and weaknesses were, especially of their key players. Now they rely greatly on film, so you don't have the same kind of scouting that I did when I was involved with the NBA.
At Westbury High School, you had 12 division championships, 2 North Shore championships, 1 county championship. What was the secret?
Good players, good material, excellent players. We never had a season where we didn't have some all-league players, some top players, college potential players, and most of my players went on to play college basketball.
You have a wealth of experience in professional sports. So many athletes today, their goal is to become professionals. What advice do you have for them?
A professional sports career is a very limited period of time. The average professional athlete plays between 3 and 5 years. You do have some who are able to play up almost to their 40th birthday, but for the most part, your career is a short career. Therefore, you have to have something that you can fall back on. You have to train yourself or be trained to earn a living outside of sports. And I suggest to all of my players that they get college educations and build careers that are outside of the professional sports career.
When you were working with the USBL, a lot of outstanding athletes, many going on to NBA careers. Tell us a little bit about that time in your life.
Well, I started out in the NBA, in the USBL in 1991, and if you remember, you were the first coach that I hired. The first player that you were responsible in bringing to the Long Island Surf was Anthony Mason, who had a pretty good career in the NBA. Later on, I brought Lloyd Daniels in, Michael Curry, and several other players. In the 5 years that I was with the USBL team, the Long Island Surf, we sent 7 players to the NBA. The USBL, during the period of time that I was involved with it, sent over 160 players from the USBL to the NBA. And it was a great feeder league. Unfortunately, it is no longer in existence. It ceased to exist after the 2008 season.
Well, Ed, I'm really excited about having you on the staff. You've had a tremendous career in athletics, and we look forward to next year and working with you in the Old Westbury Panther team.
I look forward to working with you, and hopefully we'll have a nice season, bring a championship to Old Westbury.
Thanks for joining us, Ed. It was a pleasure having you on the show. Now we'll have Sukmani with our fall sports updates.
Today's special announcement is the Old Westbury men's baseball is hosting a community service event, the Special Olympics. Tune in with us at Cantique Park in Nassau County. We have 500 athletes from Long Island, Hudson Valley, and New York City region competing in the annual Special Olympics event. In the legacy of Eunice Kennedy Shiver, the co-founder and chairperson of Special Olympics, today we are at Cantique Park, Hicksville, New York. The program director of Special Olympics, Tim Flynn, mentions the significance of Eunice Kennedy Shiver.
And it was brought to New York in 1969. So 2009, we celebrated our 40th anniversary. And because of her, these athletes are able to showcase their skills.
Rob Steffen, the head baseball coach of SUNY Old Westbury, and his team volunteered for the softball competition.
Very fortunate with the gift they were given to be able to play baseball, and this is the best organization I could think of for them to do that with, because these are special people.
I mean, it's just great for all of us to get a chance to come here. It's so close to school to to give back, but it's just, so often you take things for granted, and it's just great to see how these kids are out here, enjoying it every day.
Price a lot of times, we get together, we travel together, and we have a good time.
Special Olympics isn't about how advanced or how beginner you are as an athlete. It's about finding an appropriate environment for you to thrive. This is Sukmani at OWTV.
My second guest coach on Old Westbury Sports Extra is women's soccer coach Craig Newman of Cheltenham, England. In his first season as head coach, he was named Co-Coach of the Year in the Skyline Conference. He has led his team to 3 Skyline Conference tournaments, 3 ECAC tournaments. Coach Newman, welcome to Old Westbury Sports Extra.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
With him also today is a junior from Hauppauge, New York. She is 5'6". She was voted to All Conference in 2011. Also in 2010, she was Rookie of the Year in 2010. She's a member of the SAC committee. She's going to be joining the women's lacrosse team this spring. Her name is JoAnna Kettel. Welcome, JoAnna.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations, guys, on a great win on Wednesday versus Rutgers Newark. It was one of the most exciting soccer games I've ever seen here at Old Westbury.
Thank you.
And if you missed it, you missed a great game. Coach Newman, all the way here from England, what was the major adjustment you had to make?
Apart from driving on the wrong side of the road, I would say my coaching philosophies to the parents' style and wants for their children growing up and playing the game of soccer. Observing soccer games from a youth standpoint here, it was win-win at all costs, punt the ball down the side of the field, get it up there as quickly as possible, whereas if you're an observer of the game, you know that we start build from the back defense, midfield to the forwards, working on technique, tactics. It was a two-way street with the adjustments, me adjusting to what their expectations were, and obviously then, you know, my adjustment into, you know, the beliefs they have.
Coach, why did you begin your career?
Coming from a playing standpoint, obviously I didn't turn professional. As they say, didn't make the grade. So the next easy transition for me there was to step into the coaching. I started coaching around the age of 16, 17. Furthering that when I went on to do a degree in sport and exercise science with leisure management in my hometown. There was a module there of sports coaching. So I went on, and that set the fire inside of me. After graduation, I came over here to work for a company here on Long Island, coaching youth soccer. It was more of a clear the air, find out what I wanted to do in my life sort of scenario, but having 6 weeks here and them offering me a full-time job, here I am today, you know. 12 years later, I'm still here in the US coaching soccer, so it was the right path and the right choice to take.
Well, doing a great job for us.
Thank you.
Great win against Rutgers Newark, as I mentioned earlier. Tell us a little bit about this year's team.
This year's team is young but experienced. Only brought in we've had one transfer and one freshman join us this year. So we're returning a young but experienced team with JoAnna and Stephanie Maybe leading the front line. We have a senior Alison Perone at the back anchoring the defense, and a lot of sophomores and juniors filling in and around who have had last year's experience underneath their belts. We're expecting good things and big things. Tough start to the year, but I believe conference time, these guys are going to be ready, you know, for a push in a top 3, definitely place in the Skyline.
Well, Coach, you've had 3 Skyline Conference appearances. Who do you expect to compete with this year in the Skyline Conference?
If you're looking from our standpoint last year, finishing 3rd, obviously the 2 that spring to mind are Mount St. Mary's, who finished 1st, and Farmingdale, who finished 2nd. They're the 2 fixtures when you see every year. They're the ones that you build your team, or, you know, going forward. They're the ones that you plan everything around. Non-conference games give us the chance to work on things tactically. That's no disrespect to any other Skyline foe. St. Joe's and Purchase will obviously play us close. And you know, I'm expecting other big battles from Maritime and Mount St. Vincent, but obviously clearly the Mount St. Mary's and Farmingdale are the 2 key games going forward in the conference.
Thank you, Coach. We're expecting big things from you.
Thank you.
JoAnna,
Yes.
All-Conference 2010 Rookie of the Year, 2011 All-Conference, member of the SAC committee, also playing lacrosse this spring. How do you find time for all these activities?
Well, I find when I'm not in season, I push everything to like, oh, I have so much time, I could do it later. I don't need to do it right now. I could nap, I could go out with my friends, I could go out to eat. But when I'm in season, I have a strict schedule where I know I have practice from this time, I have class at this time, so I have like an allotted amount of time where I have to get my work done. So I find that actually my grades are better in season as opposed to out of season because I have that much time and I procrastinate and I just sit there and go, I could do it later. I have time to do it later, but in season I don't have that luxury to do it later.
Well, what was your most memorable game?
My freshman year, our first Skyline Conference game, our first conference match was against Mount St. Mary's. And it was a close game the entire time. It was 0-0, and then we went into overtime. And at that point, our captain had took a free kick, and it went in, and it was the end of the game, and everyone just went crazy. And it was like a victory it was the first one, you know, so it was my first college Skyline win. And everyone just went crazy because it was in overtime. It was just really exciting and built up.
Well, one of the things we would like to accomplish here with Old Westbury Sports Extra is to have a window into our school. What would you say to local freshmen considering Old Westbury for next year? Tell us a little bit about what your experience has been here.
Well, I like Old Westbury because if I was to go to a big school with like lecture halls or whatever, I would get so distracted by. I like how at Old Westbury there's 20 or 30 kids in your class, and the teachers know you by name, and you could talk to them and they know who you are, what you're doing or whatever. And my mom always told me that I wasn't allowed to go to school too far away. She said 2 to 3 hours in case it was ever an emergency and she needed to come see me or I needed to get home. It was quick or whatever. And the fact that Old Westbury is 30 minutes from my hometown, I could go home if I forget something, or if I need to be home, I could be home. But I dorm here, so I'm getting the experience of being away and being on my own and independent, but I still have the luxury of being close enough to home that I don't get homesick, or if I need to be home, I can be home. And it's good because a lot of our parents are able to come to our games because our home games are local enough that our parents aren't far enough and they could come and travel and see us play.
You also have a very interesting situation. Your twin sister
Yes.
is a member of Old Westbury soccer team. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, coming into college, it's kind of scary because you don't know anyone. So having someone that, I grew up with, she was always there, having someone that you already know, it makes the adjustment a little bit easier because you never have to worry about oh, do I have to eat dinner by myself tonight, or, am I going to have someone to do this with me or whatever, So it's good, and it's also good that we're on the same schedule. Our games are the same times, our practices are the same times. So it's kind of comforting having someone there that you've known your entire life, and having someone that you could depend on.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, you have 2 big games coming up. You want to tell us a little bit about what's happening today and on Saturday?
Yeah, well, directly after this, we conclude this interview, we are going to be leaving for Montclair State University over in New Jersey. We have a 7 o'clock kickoff there. Another non-conference game, another chance for me to tweak the roster, tweak the lineup, work on things, because with our schedule, we're penciled in for our first conference game next Saturday away at Mount St. Mary's. So, I've still got a few more games under our hats to adjust and finalize everything. And then Sunday, we're home against NYU with a 12 p.m. kickoff there. And we're hoping, for a good turnout and hopefully a W. NYU, I believe, are the reigning ECAC champions. So it's going to be a tough one. It's the first time we've played them. So we're expecting an interesting battle on Sunday.
Well, Coach, good luck in those games.
Thank you.
And we need you to come out and support this team. They play some tremendous soccer. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you.
For information on away games for the Panther Cross schedule, visit athletics site at oldwestburypanthers.com. See you next week.
And thank you for tuning in to Old Westbury Sports Extra. We look forward to seeing you again next week.